Most people think estate planning is about dying, but it's not. It's about control while you're alive if you're incapacitated and long after you're gone. If you don't plan, the state actually does it for you. And trust me, the state does not know your wishes. So, what is estate planning really? Estate planning isn't just a will, it's not a dusty document you sign once and forget. Estate planning is the system that answers who controls your assets, who makes decisions if you can't, who benefits, and how they benefit. If you own a home, have savings, run a business, or have a family, you already have an estate. The only question is whether you control it or does a court control it? So, what's the biggest myth? Well, the biggest myth I actually hear is I'm too young. I don't have enough assets. I'll get to it later. Estate planning isn't about how much you have, it's about what happens if life doesn't go according to your plan. That includes an accident, an illness, a business disruption. Without planning, even modest estates get stuck in probate, delayed, exposed, and mismanaged. So, what does a proper plan actually cover? Well, a real estate plan answers four questions clearly: who controls things while you're alive? Who steps in if you're incapacitated? Who receives assets and under what rules? And how do you reduce taxes, delays, and legal friction? That usually means a trust, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, and proper beneficiary alignment. Not paperwork just for paperwork's sake, but instructions with authority. Now let's talk about why later is expensive. The most expensive estate plan is the one you never set up. Probate costs money, delays cost families time and peace, bad planning costs businesses. Estate planning is one of the few financial moves where basically doing nothing is a decision, and it's usually the worst one. Estate planning isn't morbid. It's responsible, it's strategic, and it's one of the most powerful gifts you can give your family. If you want clarity, structure, and control, let's start the conversation now. At my firm, Fortitude Financial, we actually help individuals and business owners build estate plans that actually work on paper and in real life.
Most people think estate planning is about what happens after you die, but that's wrong. It's really about control while you're alive and protection for the people you care about. Today, we're breaking down one of the most powerful estate planning tools out there, the Revocable Living Trust. What it is, who it's for, and why it's often the foundation of a smart estate plan. So, what is a revocable living trust? A revocable living trust is a legal structure that holds your assets, things like your home, bank accounts, investments, and even your business interests. You create it during your lifetime and you control it while you're alive. You can change it, update it, or revoke it at any time. That flexibility is key. Revocable means you're not locking yourself into anything. So why do people use these trusts? Here's why so many families use the Revocable Living Trust as the backbone of their estate plan. First, you avoid probate. Assets inside a properly funded trust don't go through probate, which means less time, less cost, and more privacy for your family. Second, you have control and clarity. A trust lets you spell out exactly how assets are managed, distributed, and protected on your timeline, not the courts. And thirdly, you have incapacity planning. If you become incapacitated, the person you've named as trustee can step in seamlessly. No court intervention, no chaos. So what's the difference between a trust versus a will? A will is important, but it only works after you pass away and usually goes through probate. A revocable living trust works during your lifetime and after your death, and if you become incapacitated. For most people, a will is a backstop. A trust is the engine. So who should consider a trust? A revocable living trust is especially powerful if you own real estate, have children or blended families, own a business, want privacy, care about minimizing friction for your heirs. In other words, More people than you think. Here's the biggest mistake that people make. They set up the trust, but never fund it. A trust only works if your assets are properly titled into it. This step is just as important as the document itself. Estate planning isn't about being wealthy. It's about being intentional. If you're wondering whether a revocable living trust makes sense for you or how to set up one correctly, you should talk to a professional who understands both estate planning and your broader financial future. At Fortitude Financial, we help clients design estate plans that protect families, simplify transitions, and preserve wealth across generations. Not all trusts are designed for flexibility. Some are designed for protection. If a revocable trust is about control, an irrevocable trust is about strategy. Now we're going to talk about irrevocable trust, what they are, how they differ from revocable trust, and why some families and business owners intentionally give up control to gain powerful advantages. An irrevocable trust is a trust that, once created and funded, generally cannot be changed, amended, or revoked. When you move assets into an irrevocable trust, you are legally transferring ownership out of your estate. That sounds extreme, but it's exactly why irrevocable trusts exist. So what are some of the key differences between a revocable versus irrevocable trust? Well, with revocable trust, you can control it, you can change it, your assets can stay in your estate, and it's great for probate avoidance and incapacity planning. With an irrevocable trust, you give up control, changes are limited or prohibited, assets are removed from your estate, and is designed for protection, tax planning, and legacy strategies. One is flexible, the other is defensive and powerful. So why would anyone use an irrevocable trust? Well, first you have asset protection. Assets inside a properly structured irrevocable trust are generally shielded from lawsuits, creditors, business risks, and personal liabilities. This is especially relevant for entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and high-earning professionals. Secondly, you have estate tax reduction. Irrevocable trusts are often used to remove assets from your taxable estate, potentially reducing or eliminating estate taxes for your heirs. This becomes increasingly important as wealth grows and tax laws change. Thirdly, you have Medicaid and long-term care planning. Some irrevocable trusts are designed to help families qualify for Medicaid while preserving assets for children or beneficiaries. This is advanced planning, but it can protect a lifetime of savings from being wiped out by healthcare costs. Then you have legacy and control beyond the grave. Ironically, giving up control today can give you more control tomorrow. With an irrevocable trust, you can control how and when heirs receive money, you can protect beneficiaries from poor decisions, and then you can prevent assets from being misused, overspent, or lost in divorce. So what are some common irrevocable trusts? There are many forms of these, including life insurance trust, asset protection trust, special needs trust, you have charitable trust, and generation skipping trust. Each serves a very specific purpose. An irrevocable trust is not a DIY document. Once assets go in, you can't just pull them back out because you changed your mind. This is why irrevocable trust should only be used when the strategy clearly outweighs the loss of flexibility. Irrevocable trusts are not about convenience. They're about intention, protection, and long-term thinking. For the right person, they can be one of the most powerful wealth preservation tools available. So if you're exploring advanced estate planning or wondering whether an irrevocable trust makes sense in your situation, you should work with professionals who understand the legal and financial implications. At Fortitude Financial, we help clients design estate plans that protect their assets, reduce risk, and preserve wealth across generations. So here's the takeaway. A revocable living trust is about flexibility and control. You stay in charge, you can make changes, it helps avoid probate, you plan for incapacity, and you keep things simple for your family. An irrevocable trust is about protection and strategy. You give up control in exchange for asset protection, tax efficiency, and long-term legacy planning. One isn't better than the other, they're built for different goals. The real mistake isn't choosing the wrong trust, it's choosing one without understanding why. Here's why the estate plan should never be a one-size-fits-all. Your trust should match your life, your assets, your risk, and your long-term vision. If you want help figuring out which structure actually makes sense for you, work with professionals who look at the full picture, not just the paperwork. At Fortitude Financial, we help families and business owners build estate plans that create clarity and confidence for the future. Hopefully this video helped you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.